With the end of the war in August of 1945, thousands of soldiers could finally come home. There was an air of excitement for the Black Airmen of Tuskegee and other soldiers of color, a hopeful moment that they'd finally be treated with the respect they deserved and earned.
I think for a lot of Black people, certainly before the 1960s, there was this idea that if you went to war, you put your life on the line, you could prove to American society that you were worthy.
Right after Black soldiers started coming back from the war in 1944, they came back acting free.
I think a lot of people were hopeful that after the war, particularly a war when, you know, you're liberating Jews from Nazi Germany, people feel like after the war, when we go back, things will be different and, you know, we won't have to deal with what we had to deal with before. And so this is a proving ground.
Unfortunately, racial discrimination persisted. In much of America, most every aspect of public life was segregated, from the military to education, transportation, and housing. America was still a divided society.
Coming home from overseas and coming down to gangplank was still blacks this way, whites this way.
For some of the young soldiers, continuing to serve in a segregated military was unacceptable. Franklin Macon, who was in his early 20s at the time, decided he'd had enough.
I didn't stay in the military because of the segregated service. I could not see where I could make any rank as an officer, enlisted, or what. I felt that the bases that they would send me to would all be in the South. And I just didn't want to be bothered, and I didn't have to.
Those who stayed in the service faced continued discrimination. Just prior to the war's end, at the Freeman Field airfield in Indiana, a group of Tuskegee-trained pilots decided to push back against their mistreatment.
There's the example of the Freeman Field mutiny, where the bomber crew that was associated with Tuskegee, they had gone through training at Tuskegee, and then were based at Freeman Field. The officers in the 477th Bombardment Group were denied entry to the Officers Club.
Base commander there was an overt racist, and he would not let the black officers into the Officers Club.
And so over 100 of these people decided that they could not put up with that kind of segregation, that there was no way to compromise with that, that as men they had to be able to do this because they were as good as anyone else who was using the Officers Club. And if you're arrested for disobeying orders in wartime, you know, the ultimate penalty is death, but you're subject to some pretty intense penalties.
Fed up, African-American officers organized a protest, resulting in the arrest of more than 100 black soldiers.
There was some pushing and shoving that went on, and when it eventually got sorted through by outside inspectors coming in, it was found that they were fully entitled to the privileges that they were expecting, that the base commander did not handle the incident very well. He was relieved. Colonel Davis took over command at that time, and the 477th continued its training.
This event and others drew attention to the issue of discrimination in the military, and by 1948, President Truman integrated the armed services with Executive Order 9981.
There was as much fighting going on. That's the reason that President Truman integrated the armed forces, that a house divided against itself could not stand.
They made the decision to bring about a change, and that's why I'd say the Air Force really led our country in the integration and equal opportunity.
By July of 1949, the Tuskegee program had ended, and its all-black squadrons had been deactivated. Still, for the Airmen of Tuskegee, the fight for racial justice and equal rights would continue. My father served in both the Korean and Vietnam Wars and retired after 32 years as a full colonel in the Air Force, earning 18 service medals and awards. Benjamin Davis, one of the original members of the 99th Fighter Squadron, would go on to become the first ever black brigadier general in the Air Force and would rise to the rank of 4 stars. Coleman Young, a member of Tuskegee's 477th Bomber Group and a part of the Freeman Club mutiny, was elected Detroit's first black mayor. And Charles McGee would go on to have an exemplary career in the Air Force, flying 409 missions in 3 wars, still a record today.
Segregation didn't change, but a lot of opportunity doors opened up, and all were glad to be a part of what was taking place.
In September 2020, almost 80 years after Tuskegee opens its doors to train the very first black pilots, Lieutenant General Richard M. Clark becomes superintendent of the U.S. Air Force Academy.
Since the Tuskegee Airmen changed our force, we've had gradual change, and it has taken time. We are becoming an Air Force more and more where it doesn't matter what your skin color is, what your ethnicity, your religion, your gender, you can achieve your dreams. You can achieve the highest levels of success here in our Air Force. And I'm honored to be here as leader of the Air Force Academy. And I am the first, yes, but I'm certain that I won't be the last. And it's an honor. The history's not lost on me, but now I have to perform. Doesn't matter what color I am, doesn't matter where I'm coming from. I owe something to my school. I owe something to every cadet out there.
So again, when you talk about Tuskegee Airmen, when you think about the barriers that they faced as the first African-American aviators of the United States Armed Forces during segregation, right? This is during World War II, at a time where, again, society, it wasn't just an individual, but society were deeming these folks based upon the color of their skin as incompetent, inept, and inferior. What they were able to display, both in and outside of the military, was Black excellence.
Some 60 years after they fought so hard to fight for their country, the achievements and influence of the Tuskegee Airmen are widely recognized at last.
They paved the way for people of my generation to run for public office and to carry the torch for what they were able to do decades ago. And I continue to pay homage to Tuskegee Airmen through things like the ceremonial resolution that we passed, recognizing their contributions to the United States.
Today, I am incredibly honored to present the Tuskegee Airmen Commemoration Day Ceremonial Resolution of 2019.
For decades to come, people should understand what those contributions meant. The fact that Tuskegee Airmen face the types of discrimination at home, segregation in the armed forces, and yet were able to accomplish what they did really means a lot, even today for somebody like me. And I think that history should continue to recognize them, that people who visit the nation's capital should understand that every 4th Thursday of March is commemorated as Tuskegee Airmen Day in the nation's capital.